All right, welcome back to the show. We appreciate you hanging out with us, and big college football weekend this weekend. But before we get into that, we have a new sponsor here on the first round, Mayberry Chopper. Mayberry Chopper located in Mayberry, North Carolina, serving your family since 1960. Come on down to the shop and be the first to test drive the new 2019 Check Post Chickie. Barney, Floyd, Andy, and the whole Mayberry Chopper family would like to invite you to share a cup of Aunt B's hand-ground coffee and a smile. Mayberry Chopper, newest and proudest sponsor of the first round. Let's get it started.
You're tuned in to the hottest sports analysis of the week with your hosts Ron Dolbeck and Chris Roberts. And now, here's the first round.
Round. Big weekend. Winter is on its way. Summer is gone. College football all over the country. We actually have amazing games this weekend. College game day is in Gainesville. There is so much to talk about, so let's get it started right now. College football preview. We've got big games. The one I want to start off with, number 7, Auburn is going on the road right here to the Swamp in Florida against the number 10 Gators. I think this is an evenly matched matchup for this weekend. I think it's going to be defensive line, and the big question is, can Bo Nix, the freshman quarterback for Auburn, rise up in front of that hostile crowd, which I hope is a full stadium because the Gators are going to need it, and stay calm and silence all those Gator fans. Big game coming up at 3:30 on CBS tomorrow. The next big game on the schedule, Iowa, number 14 at embattled Michigan, who's ranked number 19 in the country for some reason that I can't figure out. The two questions I have here are, one, what is Jim Harbaugh going to do with his offense and Shea Patterson? Shea Patterson has got to calm down, and I think they've got to get their running game going, stop the turnovers. I mean, Michigan has been a turnover machine this whole season, and we're almost halfway through the season. The bleeding's got to stop, but it doesn't get any easier in the big house tomorrow because Iowa's coming to town. They're solid. We'll talk about that game. Number 21, Oklahoma State going on the road to Texas Tech. Texas Tech is averaging 173 yards rushing. That's amazing. Texas Tech has never done that. I love Oklahoma State, and the number one reason is their freshman quarterback, Spencer Sanders. I think this kid is going to be lights out in a couple years. He just needs to get some experience underneath his belt. That's a game we're looking forward to. Number 5, LSU at home. This is a tune-up game against Utah State, who comes in 3-1. You know, there's people out there talking about Joe Burrow for the Heisman. I think we need to pump the brakes on that one. Let them get this win because next week in prime time, the Florida Gators, depending on how they do this weekend, they're going to be going into LSU either riding on a high note or trying to lick their wounds up against a team that's a legitimate top 5 team in LSU. Number 6, Oklahoma, in another tune-up game, goes on the road to 2-3 Kansas. It's a 33-point line. I think they're going to be up by 33 at halftime. I have faith in Kansas, just not this year. Les Miles will get it turned in the right direction, but you got to give him some time. Kent State goes on the road to visit my number 1 Heisman contender, Jonathan Taylor, running back at Wisconsin. The Badgers are ranked 8th. They're playing at Camp Randall. This is a tune-up game. I expect a big running game from Jonathan Taylor from Wisconsin tomorrow against Kent State. The next game we have on the board, number 11, Texas, given 10.5, going on the road to West Virginia game. This could be a sneaky game. West Virginia is 3-1, but they really haven't beaten anybody solid. I think that Texas has got to get out ahead, and this is a good game where Texas has got to sharpen up their defense. It's been this year. The thing I like about Texas is their quarterback. We'll get more into that later on in the show. Georgia, another tune-up game. They go on the road. They play Tennessee, given 25 points. I like Georgia big in that game. And the last game on the board that we're going to cover this weekend, Michigan State, number 14, going on the road to many people's new number 1 team, Ohio State, because they went on the road and beat Nebraska. How do you put them number 1? I think they're in the top 5. I've got them in my top 5. I'm pumping the brakes on putting them number 1 right now. Those are some of the things we're going to be covering in the world of sports. We're going to talk some MLB baseball, some UFC fighting. You got a big card on UFC coming up. But first, we want to start it off by saying, my co-host, Chris Roberts, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Ryan.
You're so calm. How can you be calm when there's so many great games going on? Like, we had a dumpster fire lineup last weekend, and then this weekend it's like spring, man. All the flowers are blooming. We got fall coming around the corner. I mean, everything's coming alive right now in college football. This is great.
Ryan, I'm just chilling. I'm in the eye of the storm, man, because it's going to be a great weekend of football.
Yeah, so, I mean, we need another sponsor like Monster Energy Drink or Jolt just for my co-host here, because College Game Day is in Gainesville. We're going to be down there tomorrow. I think this is a huge game that I want to get into right now. Auburn going on the road, coming here to the Swamp. And, like I said at the top of the show, I think one of the big things that we've got to watch out for is how is Bo Nix going to adjust to being a road SEC game, hostile environment, we hope. Florida hasn't exactly been selling out this season. And against a defense that a lot of people think is really great, but they haven't been passing the eye test with me. So I think the first thing that I want to be looking for is how does Bo Nix play in this game?
Again, Ron, I'm with you on that. I'm looking to see which Bo Nix are we going to get. Are we going to get the Bo Nix that went 10 for 12 right at 100 yards? Or are we going to get the Bo Nix we got last week who threw for 3 touchdowns?
Yeah, they can't allow Florida's defensive line to rattle him early. They got to get their running game going. Auburn's second in the SEC right now in rushing, so that's going to be a big test. The defensive line at Florida, they're getting 2 thumbs up from me. The secondary and the tackling, I'm not sure. I saw Kentucky going up and down the field on him. I saw Miami going up and down the field on him. I got question marks when it comes to Florida's secondary. I think that big question, Bo Nix, is he going to be up for it? Here's one thing, if you're an Auburn fan, here's one thing you can hang your hat on. They've already had 3 big games. He showed up against Oregon, took him down the field in the last drive of the game and won that game. They went on the road to Texas A&M, beat a solid Texas A&M team, not going to contend for anything in the SEC West, and now this will be his 3rd game. So I think any jitters that he might have, it's not going to be because of the atmosphere or the environment or the crowd or because game day's there. I think it's going to be that front 4 for Florida, which gets Zaninga back. That's a big thing for them on the end. But can he stay calm and take the crowd out of it? Have ball control offense, not make major mistakes, take those rowdy reptiles out of the game, silence that crowd, and play a conservative, free, Gus Malzahn maybe not wanting to speed it up, eat some of that clock down type of game.
Well, also you have to look at, too, Bo Nix is a dual-threat quarterback. So that defensive front, that can be mitigated somewhat as Bo Nix can get out on the outside, can extend plays to actually throw the ball down the field, or Gus Malzahn is good for running those option plays with the quarterback. So if Gus Malzahn is able to get him some run play options to get the ball down the field and also the rush, in order to the rush to take some pressure off of him, look for Gus Malzahn to do that. But my key question of the game is, this is Kyle Trask's biggest game so far.
Oh yeah,
he's going against an Auburn defense that's probably ranked has one of the best defensive lines in the nation. So the question is, how is he going to be able to handle that defensive front of Auburn?
You know what? You're absolutely right. Auburn's front 4 has looked lights out so far this year, and it's sad to say that I have so many question marks when it comes to the secondary of Florida. I mean, it just hasn't passed the eye test. When I look at a top 10 team, and we're talking about one of the best defenses in the SEC, if not top 10 in the nation, I want to see lockdown defense. That means not making mistakes, not having 3 PI penalties in the Miami game, not letting a backup quarterback in Kentucky go up and down the field on you, not having bad tackling, which we've seen throughout the year. I mean, this is the time where the rubber's going to hit the road, and Florida's defense really needs to sharpen up. They have enough questions on offense, whether they're going to be able to put enough points on the board. I think this is going to be a super, super tight game. Here's one thing that not a lot of people are talking about. Auburn's going on the road with a freshman quarterback to a top 10 team, and they're giving 3 points. Taylor, producer, is my mic on? They're giving 3 points on the road with a freshman quarterback. Hello? Hello? You know, when you talk to Florida is kind of like Notre Dame and the New York Yankees. There's just a little bit, a tinge of myopicness in the fans because every Florida fan's like, oh yeah, we're gonna blow them out. We're gonna blow them out. You're not gonna blow anybody out. Believe me. You're gonna use all of your 9 lives just to stay in this game. Trust me, it's gonna be that close. I'm taking Auburn minus the 3 points. That's my pick on the game. I'm taking Auburn. I think Gus Malzahn is a solid coach. I like the direction Bo Nix is trajectory is going up, and I think their defense is locked down. Besides that, they can run the ball like no other. So they control the clock. They can avoid turnovers. I like it. I like Auburn minus the 3 in a close game at the Swamp. How do you see it breaking down, though, Chris?
I'm with you on that. I just have too many questions about Kyle Trask actually playing in this not only this environment, but actually playing against a defense this well and this tough. I don't know if he can handle this pressure, withstand that pressure. So it's just too many questions for Kyle Trask. I'm looking at their offense. They can't run the ball, or they haven't run the ball well all season. And then I'm looking at that secondary too. Are they going to come to play tomorrow? Are we going to have penalties? What is Grantham going to do with this defense? Can he ramp them up? Can he get them going? There's too many questions for Florida. I'm taking Auburn.
Yeah, I'm with you. You know, HBO did the special last week. I just watched it today where they came in and they sat with them last week during the Townsend week,
right.
Prep for that week. And, you know, Florida, it's hard to get up for Townsend. And the Florida players tonight, you can be getting up for this game and getting hyped and jumping around and we're ready. But the first time that offensive line smacks you in the mouth, it's going to be on. And you got to be ready before you get all hyped up coming out of that tunnel. You might just want to walk out of that tunnel and be tunnel focused and be totally ready on doing your job. You got one job to do. Stop their offensive line. You got to stop, make Bo Nix beat you. That's what you got to do. You got to tackle. You can't be giving up dumb penalties, extending drives, especially with a freshman quarterback. And we all know what Gus Malzahn's going to do. You get a first down, he's going to hit that fast forward button, and he's going to have that hurry-up offense, and you got to be ready. I just think that Florida's got to be all kinds of ready tomorrow and serious, not playing games. Don't get into all the game day hype. If you want to walk away with the win, you got to take this game dead serious because Auburn's going to come in 100% ready to go, and they have a proven coach.
Yeah, totally. I just think that if Mullen wants to pull this game out, he's going to have to find a way to get a running game going to take some of the pressure off of Trask and our offense. And that defense, you just have to be ready. I mean, because that tempo is going to come. You have to be able to rotate your players in, so your players have to be ready to go. If they're not paying attention to the little details, Auburn just might run away with this game. But I'm taking them again, Auburn minus the 3.
Yeah, I'm having a premonition right now. I'm looking into my crystal ball over the corner of the studios, and I'm seeing Auburn creating turnovers, especially that defensive line. I'm really concerned about that. I mean, it's easy to say games come down to turnovers, but that's my prediction is Florida has got to not let Auburn cause turnovers when Florida's on offense. That will absolutely kill them quicker than anything else. So we both got Auburn minus 3, which, I mean, again, that's just unbelievable. A freshman on the road, which isn't a big deal for him. This isn't his first show, but yeah, I'm taking Auburn minus the 3. I think it's going to be a really tight, close game. The next big game on the board, Michigan State goes to Ohio State. When we talk about Michigan State, we're talking about questionable quarterbacking and awesome defense. When we talk about Ohio State, we're talking about Urban who? Ryan Day has filled those boots and put on his own boots, and he's planting his own flag there. I mean, they haven't skipped a beat. They've got 2 incredible running backs there, J.K. Dowlings and Master Teague. Both of them could start on any team in the country. You have an offensive line that's incredible. We haven't even started talking about Justin Fields. You know, I was looking up some of the numbers on Justin Fields. Justin Fields so far is over 1,000 yards passing. He's over 1,100. He's over 654 yards rushing, and he's accounted for 21 touchdowns in 5 games, including 6 touchdowns in 1 quarter. This game is at the Horseshoe tomorrow. I can't see it getting out of hand just because of Michigan State's defense. I think you keep it close. But I got to say I like Ohio State, and I'm not going out on a limb to say it either.
I think they keep it close as far as Ohio State standards. I see Ohio State probably pulling away a little bit later in this game, simply because of what you stated before with the running backs. And on top of that, Justin Fields. Justin Fields has actually proven that he can be a willing and a pretty good passer, along with running the ball. And I think with him being able to extend plays on offense, being able to, to be able to have those RPOs, which everybody utilizing right now to his advantage against that Michigan State defense. I think with all of those things that he has going for him, and on top of that, nobody talks about Ohio State's defense. Their defense is pretty good itself. So when you're looking at an offense that can be stagnated at times, and then you have an offense that can actually move the ball down the field, I think Ohio State pulls off a little bit later on at the end.
So here's one thing that college football fans fall into so many times, and when I was younger, I fell into it a lot too, is they have a game last week at Lincoln, Nebraska, which was absolutely a dumpster fire on top of hot vomit. I mean, that was disgusting what they did to Nebraska. And I actually feel bad for our friends up in Nebraska because you got to be shaking your head going, what the hell just hit us? But you got to remind yourselves, in the press and as a fan, it was Nebraska. They didn't go on the road and destroy Alabama. They destroyed Nebraska. Nebraska's not that good this year. Nebraska has a quarterback that people were talking about at the beginning of the season for the Heisman. I mean, Ohio State, full credit. Ryan Day, awesome transition job. Solid team in every single facet. Special teams, offense, defense, coaching. He's kept it going with recruiting, another top 10 class. But because you destroyed Nebraska, I'm not like some of these guys on ESPN and we're putting them at number 1. Number 1? Tua has been doing this at Alabama for years now. This is Justin Fields' first year. Let's not anoint them after a blowout at Nebraska at number 1. That's a little bit of a reach, wouldn't you say?
It's a reach. I'm not putting Ohio State at number 1 after what they did in Nebraska. But when I look at Ohio State's overall team, and then I'm looking at the stagnation of this Michigan State offense. Their offense is at times it gets really stagnated. Their quarterback, maybe he has a decent game, maybe he doesn't. And when I'm looking at Ohio State, when I'm saying they're going to pull away it's going to be a pull away game by Ohio State standards, I'm talking about maybe 10 points. They're going to pull away. They're going to win by double digits, and it's not going to be like it was last week because. No. We see that Nebraska has problem on offense and defense. Oh,
they couldn't get out of their own way. And,
exactly.
I couldn't wait to after that game to get on Twitter, to get on ESPN, to get on the social medias, to say I wanted to hear what Scott Frost was going to say. I mean, you want to talk about not being ready. They were not ready for that. I mean, that was just like a Mack truck that they just drove right over every single facet of Nebraska. Then they decided to back the truck up and keep running over them nonstop. I mean, 38-0 at halftime. Somebody's got to take a white towel and throw it into the middle of the field at that point. Here's the thing at Michigan State, for any Michigan State fans that are out there, both of you that are watching this week, you've got the 7th best defense in the country. That is what you are absolutely going to have to hang your hat on, because I'm going to tell you right now what Ohio State's going to do. They are going to send all kinds of blitz schemes and rushing schemes to go after and tear the head of Ryan Lewicki off like a Pez dispenser. I mean, they're going to go after that guy and rip him apart, especially when your rushing game hasn't been that strong.
Exactly.
Michigan State better hang their hat on their defense and try somehow to slow down a offensive monster that has so much talent. It's actually frightening.
It really is. And Michigan State, if Lewicki comes out and has a semi-decent game,
it's not going to be good enough.
Maybe you keep it within 17 points. But I still think Ohio State pulls away from this.
Yeah, I think so too. I like Ohio State 14, at least by 14 points and maybe more. I mean, I can't even see Michigan State getting a jump touchdown at the end. But I have been wrong before. But that's my prediction. I'm going to take Ohio State in this game, 14 to 17 points, if not more. Another big game. It's hard to believe there's been so many big games so far in the Big Ten. But the next big game is number 14 Iowa going on the road to the Big House to Michigan. Michigan is just like, I don't even have the words to describe them this year. It started out in weeks 1 and 2 where I was talking about, hey, Army is coming to Michigan. Army's going to give Michigan all they can handle. That happened. Shea Patterson hasn't been solid all year. That experiment, you've got to be pulling the plug. Why haven't they pulled the plug? That guy's a turnover magnet. It's like, I feel like I'm watching Jameis Winston again. Jameis Winston in the pros put a helmet on, and he's the head quarterback at Michigan. They had 4 turnovers in the first half, I think, last week. They've got to stop the turnovers. And Iowa, I'm going to tell you 3 things I love about Iowa. Consistency, Kurt Ferentz, and consistency. You know what you're getting. Nate Stanley is a solid quarterback. Mikael Sargent is a good running back. I think they're going to lean on their running game, and Staley's the kind of quarterback, he's not going to blow it for you. I think Iowa is going to give Michigan all they can handle and then some. How are they a 4.5-point dog? This is my 5-star millennial teaser of the week. I don't know if you're counting. I am 5-0 on my teaser picks this year.
Look at you.
Look at me. Beep, beep. So this is my 5-star millennial teaser pick of the week. I'm taking Iowa plus 10.5. Give me the 10.5 all day long. How do you see this game, Chris?
I see this game is Michigan getting pushed around the field as they haven't really proven that they can play a team that is physical. Go back and look at that Army game. Army pushed them around the field. Army had over 300 yards on the ground. Mm-hmm. So you look at that, then you have a quarterback who can pass the ball off of play action, and as usual, Iowa always has that one tight end that gets down the field and just obliterates you as normal. And I just see that Michigan's just going to have those type of problems again, where they get pushed around the field physically and defensively. They're gonna obliterate Shea Patterson. It's not gonna even be a pretty game. It's gonna be brutal, man.
Yeah, I can't see that he hasn't been consistent talking about Shea Patterson, quarterback out of Louisiana up to Michigan. When he hasn't been a consistent, solid quarterback at any point. Yeah. Big games last year, end of the year, you get blitzed at Ohio State. You get blitzed in your bowl game against Florida. You get everything you can handle this year against Army. You don't look good. So you beat up on Rutgers last week. So what? My grandmother, God rest her soul, has been dead for 10 years. She beats up on Rutgers. That doesn't impress me. So here's the thing. Kurt Ferentz is going to have Iowa ready in this game. I think it's going to be a close game. I don't think there's going to be a lot of points scored. I think it's going to be a defensive battle. I like Iowa on a teaser. Take Iowa plus the 10.5 points. And then it doesn't get any easier for Michigan with their upcoming schedule. Excuse me. The last time that these teams played was 3 years ago, and Iowa beat them on a last-second field goal, 14-13. That's the kind of game that I see hammering out, and I just think it's going to be a slow decline for Michigan as the rest of the season plays out. They haven't even played the tough part of their schedule yet.
Exactly. I see Michigan is they're on that slope. They're on that razor's edge, about to fall into a pool of alcohol. If they lose this game, you can pretty much say the season is over. And if I'm Michigan, I'm starting to look for another head coach because Harbaugh's not getting it done.
Yeah, we can't go into that anymore. We've already sent out the search party weeks ago. We have lights and foghorns. We've got the blimp up there, smoke signals, carrier pigeons, FedEx, everything else. That's already been established. The only way I see Michigan they've got to stay close is one, Shea Patterson can't be going down the field with the ball. He's got to have manageable bump routes, bubble screens, safe stuff, 5 and 10 yards. Let's get some yak yards after catch. And you've got to get your running back Carbonneau going in the running game. And you've got to start eating up time. And it's just going to be a slobber knocker defensive battle. And you can't have turnovers. If they can't solve the turnover problem, they're not going to stay in the game against Iowa. Enough said on that one. one of the surprises that nobody's talking about this year is Oklahoma State freshman quarterback Spencer Sanders. This guy's a dual threat quarterback. He's smart. He doesn't make mistakes. He seems like he's been there for 2 or 3 years, even though he's a freshman. And he's got Oklahoma State ranked 21 in the country going on the road to Texas Tech, who is 66 in the country in overall defense. You're just laughing because you're thinking they're licking their chops right now. The mullet is licking his chops.
The mullet is he's doing something. I mean, hope he's not making another Donkey Kong reference. But I think Oklahoma State, they're going to go into this game. I think they pull it out against Texas Tech. Texas Tech, not really known for their defense. Okay, pretty good on offense, but I think Oklahoma State goes ahead and wins this game. Probably, I said they win this game. Probably, I give them 2 touchdowns winning this game.
14 points.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing. We know in the Big 12 there isn't a lot of defense.
Yeah.
And we know that Oklahoma State is known for their passing offense.
Right.
Here's the thing about Oklahoma State right now. They're 10th overall in the country in rushing yards. Did you know that?
Yeah.
291 yards they're rushing for every game. They're averaging almost 300 yards rushing.
Yeah.
You got to do that with a freshman quarterback just to give him confidence. But I don't even think that's the case with Sanders. I think that he's comfortable passing. I mean, he looked like he was in control of the game when they went to Austin, hostile environment, top 10 team, primetime game, and they stayed with Texas the whole game. So I think they pull out the victory. I'm looking at the spread is 10.5. I think it's going to be right on the spread right there. I think it's going to be a 10 to 14 point victory, and I think Oklahoma State is going in the right direction right now.
Yeah, I think the mullet has them going in the right direction. But Oklahoma State has always been known for having that running quarterback who could actually pass the ball. I remember watching them play against my beloved alma mater, and I didn't think Oklahoma State would be that good. But their quarterbacks are good, and on top of that, they have a 3-headed monster, back there rushing the ball. So this will be a pretty good game as far as them rushing the ball against Texas Tech, who can't stop anybody. So
yeah, they're 66th overall in defense, and I don't expect an exciting game. I just think it's going to be a game that it helps the maturation process for the young guys on Oklahoma State. Looking forward to the rest of their schedule because they're going to start getting into the tough part of their Big 12 schedule moving forward. Talking about getting into the tough part of your schedule, LSU gets a home game tomorrow night against Utah State. Utah State is 3-1. They're a little better than a lot of people think. They're getting 28 points, and I'm taking Utah State plus the points. I don't think this is a trap game that LSU is looking ahead to Florida next week. They get them in prime time, 8 o'clock on ESPN. Florida goes to LSU next week. I don't think they'll be looking ahead. I just think that when you look at the track history of games that against lesser opponents at home that LSU plays, they don't cover a lot of the time. So I'm taking Utah State plus the 28 points.
I don't know. This LSU team seems a little different than the teams of the past. I just go back and look at that Vanderbilt game a few weeks ago. Mm-hmm. LSU generally plays down to their competition. They not only go into Vanderbilt, but they put up 66 points on Vanderbilt at home against a team that's generally pretty tough on defense. I think this is a different LSU team. I think offensively they got it going with a quarterback who can go down the field. I think they can rush the ball well, and I believe by halftime their starters are on the bench.
That's fine. That'll keep Utah State in the game and let me cover on my 28 points. So let's go back to that Vandy game because you said they scored over 60 points, and they did. You know what? They gave up over 30 points to Vandy. No one does that. Vandy doesn't score over 30 points against anybody. So that's what's making me think I'll take the 28 points. The other thing about LSU right now is they look solid. They're a top 5 team. I'm not taking anything away from them. But are we putting – I hear some people out there talking, especially some of these other podcasters, about Joe Burrow being in the top 5 for Heisman.
I'm not putting Joe Burrow in the top 5.
I'm not putting him in my top 5 for Heisman.
Hey, he better be
the most outstanding player. I don't see that.
He has to run the table. He literally has to be Florida, Alabama, and has to win the SEC championship in order to get there.
So who has he looked solid against? A Vandy team that's not that good, and a Texas team that has absolutely no defense at all. Actually, I think Texas is 110th overall defense in the country. If I'm a Heisman contender, I don't want to hang my hat on that. I mean, he managed the game. He put up big numbers against a terrible defense. But because of that, I mean, if that was the case, all the Washington State quarterbacks for the past 30 years would be Heisman contenders. I mean, right? Am I out of my mind? I just don't see Joe Burrow right now as a Heisman contender.
Well, he has to be somewhere in the top 10. He's not in the top 5. I mean, simply because you can name 5 players off the top of your head that is ahead of him. So he's in the top 10, but he's definitely not in the top 5.
Yeah, we'll get into both of our Chris and Mike's top 5 in Heisman a little bit later in the show. But as far as tomorrow goes, this is just a tune-up game for LSU at home. Moving on to Wisconsin, number 8 at home at Camp Randall against Kent State. I think this is just going to be a Tecmo Bowl game. I think that it gives them a chance to get their new quarterback, Kroon, a little bit more time under center and to help his maturation process go. I love Paul Chryst as a head coach. I think Wisconsin's a solid top 10 team, but I think this is just going to be handoff left and right and let Jonathan Taylor go up over maybe 150, 200 yards tomorrow. This isn't going to be much of a challenge for him.
No, I think this is just a pad the stats game for Jonathan Taylor tomorrow. I think Wisconsin, they just really, again, they're going to be like LSU. They'll be sitting their starters by halftime to rest them up and get them ready for the rest of the season.
Yep. A game of a little bit more relevance, going back to the Big 12, is number 11, Texas, going on the road to West Virginia. West Virginia is actually a surprising 3-1. I can't tell you who the head coach is. I don't know who any of the game-breaking players are. I don't know who the quarterback is. I don't even know the name of their stadium that they play in. I mean, that's how off the grid I am with West Virginia. But somehow they're 3-1. Texas is given 10.5 points. I think that's because of their defense. They're 102nd in the country. I said 110th. They're 102nd in the country in overall defense. So we know what they're getting in offense with Sam Ehlinger.
Right.
He's awesome. I actually have him as my number 6 guy in my Heisman list. I think he's that good. They no doubt can move the ball. They've got to start proving right now in this game that their defense is getting tuned up. If they don't get it tuned up, Oklahoma's knocking on the door next weekend in Dallas at a high noon game. So you don't want Jalen Hurts running all over you. And I'm not saying that they're going to fix all of their problems, but you got to start showing up that defense because, next week and moving forward, the schedule starts getting tougher. So tomorrow is a game where you've got a chance to make some hay and look good and get tightened up on defense. I'm not worried about their offense. I like Texas laying the 10.5 on the road to a team that's 3-1 that nobody in this country outside of Morgantown knows anything about.
You and me both. The only thing I know about West Virginia is their mascot is David Crockett, and he walks around with the raccoon hat on. But no, this West Virginia team has been floating under the radar this season. Like you, I don't know who are the game breakers. I don't know who the quarterback is, nor the coach either. The only thing I knew was Dana Holgerson last year, and he is not there. So I'm with you on that. I take Texas. I'm going with you with Texas on that game, too.
Texas led the 10.5.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the last game I wanted to talk about this week, and not even because it's going to be a good matchup, it's because of all the off-field stuff that's going on, is Georgia going on the road to Tennessee. And you want to talk about the ultimate tune-up game. I mean, if you want to put up some stats, I'm thinking Jake Fromm is like hand left, hand right. DeAndre Swift, let him run for like 5,000 yards maybe tomorrow in Knoxville. I mean, if you're a Tennessee fan, how much are you throwing up every single week? Philip Fulmer has to come out this week as the AD at his alma mater and say, I'm not going to be replacing the guy that I hired, Jeremy Pruitt, at head coach. I mean, that tells you, we've only got about 3 minutes before you can't see the back of the Titanic anymore. We're almost all the way underwater at this point. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. To be honest with you, if I'm a Tennessee fan, I'm begging Philip Fulmer to come back. This in-state rival.
Yeah.
University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, which
Yeah, that was a 45-0 blowout. But
exactly.
Let's look at the reality of the season for Tennessee. You got massive player defections. You got blowout losses to teams that you know, like Florida just took them to the woodshed and could have beat them by more. You got losses at home to BYU and Georgia Southern that you shouldn't have as a Tennessee program. You got your fan base calling for your coach 5 games into the season to get fired. I mean, it's just like, I don't even want to put this in my Carnival of Insanity category. This is like so galactically disgusting. I feel bad for Tennessee fans because it's been this way for so long, and you're hoping for a breakout season. It's not happening this year.
It's not happening this year, and probably not for the next foreseeable future. You know, when I look at Tennessee, I looked at Tennessee as that blue blood team when Philip Fulmer was there at Tennessee. I'm not a big SEC fan, but I'm used to Tennessee being at the top with Florida and Georgia.
Yeah, big offensive line.
Exactly.
Solid defense. Good coaching.
Great running backs.
Arian Foster. I mean, we can go down a list of like 5 or 6 guys that have been great products to come out of there. And this year, it's just like, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of those Lego sets that you used to put together, and somebody came over after they built their preseason and said, okay, this is what our season's going to be. It's made out of all these Lincoln Logs. And somebody poured gas all over it, lit it on fire, put it on YouTube, and it's going viral. I mean, everybody's seeing how bad Tennessee is this year. It's terrible. I mean, like I said, I'm not even a Tennessee fan. I just feel bad for them. So we'll put them to rest. That'll be a blowout victory. Georgia's given 24 points in that game. I really think I laid the 24.
Yeah, I'd take the 24 points too, but I bet you right now these guys wish they had Derek Dooley back the way this season is going.
Yeah, you know, here's the thing with Georgia, and I don't want to get all into Georgia. The thing about Georgia is they've got to start learning to put teams away. You know, they should have put Notre Dame away, I thought, a little bit earlier. They didn't, but this is one of those games that you capitalize on. You tune up all the little miscues and the little errors that you think you have, and you get tuned up because coming down the road are the big games. Everybody's starting to get into the meat of their conference schedule, and that's going to happen for Georgia, and this is a good game to get tuned up on. We're almost halfway through the college football season, and so far there's been some surprises that are good and some surprises that are bad. I wanted to talk about some of the surprises that you and I have seen so far this season. What's one of yours?
One of my surprises has actually been the arrival of Auburn. I mean, you look at them last year; they were third in their division. They were 9-4, and now here they are. They're sitting as a top 10 team with a freshman quarterback, and I mean they're actually looking pretty good and pretty solid so far the first half of the season.
Yeah. Is it just me, or has Gus Malzahn been on the hot seat for like 10 years?
It seems like it.
You know? And nobody gives this guy credit, and yet here he is. He's got a top 10 team going on the road to another top 10 team, and he's got his team favored.
Yeah.
And they're a solid organization. So one of my surprises this year, and I've got to say I couldn't have been more wrong about this team, sadly, is Nebraska. I thought that bringing Scott Frost back, the native son, he did great down here in Florida. He can be a recruiting guy. He can go down to Texas. He can go to California. He can go to Florida. He can grab that talent, say, hang his hat on, hey, this is what we did at UCF. Hasn't happened. And last week, you know, I thought they were going to be solid. I thought Adrian Martinez was going to be a solid dual threat quarterback. It has not panned out. Not only has it not panned out, last week was like putting them under the microscope and showing the country what Nebraska really is. It's not very good. I think they're going to be scraping for a bowl game.
Yeah.
And that's not good. When I've talked to some of the guys I know up in Nebraska, it's kind of odd because some of them are like, you know, we got to give him 4 or 5 years. 4 or 5 years?
Yeah. It's
not heading in the right direction. This is year 2. You can't be having game day come out and a primetime game on national TV, albeit against one of the top 5 teams in the country, and look like that in your second year when you've been brought in to resurrect a once glory-filled program. I mean, that just looked really off the tracks last week.
Well, I mean, you still have to look at the fact, too, that Nebraska has now come into the fact that now they're having to now recruit against teams like Ohio State, who already have pipelines to Florida,
New Jersey,
right? So when you're looking
Virginia,
at
yeah.
right, so when you're looking at those schools that already have those pipelines, already has those relationships, and you have Nebraska that's just used to recruiting from the middle of the country, you're going to have those issues now because now you have fallen behind everyone else.
Yeah, and you hear that? Can you hear it? That's all the Nebraska fans saying, well, we're 3-2 right now. You're 3-2. You've beaten University of South Alabama, Northern Illinois, and the Fighting Illini. And that was a game that you probably shouldn't have won either in Champaign. That was a very sloppy game that you won at the end of the fourth quarter. So I don't know how high you want to hang your hat on a 3-2 schedule, a 3-2 record right now. By the way, let's talk about your schedule. You got Minnesota. They're going to give you all kinds of hell and probably going to beat you. Indiana's going to give you all that you can handle. You got Wisconsin. You got Maryland. And you got Iowa coming up. How's that looking? That bowl game, that's not a gimme anymore. That's not a free spot on the bingo board. You might want to look at the schedule because you guys aren't passing the eye test. I don't know if they get into a bowl game, but that's just me. What's another surprise that's been hitting you so far almost halfway through the college football season, Chris?
Just how quiet everybody has been on Penn State. Penn State has been that team that's just been lurking under the radar. Everybody forgot about them until they exploded last week on poor Maryland, destroyed them.
But isn't Penn State playing up to the level of its competition? Because we saw them in a game that I predicted that Pitt was going to, give them all they can handle, and they did. But then they come back next week and show us that Maryland wasn't for real. So is it a matter of them playing up to the level of their competition, or are they that good?
Well, I look at that Pitt game a little bit differently, simply because it's a rivalry game. So every time you're playing in that rivalry game, it's going to be it's going to be a tight game. Everybody wants to win that game. So if you're going to gauge Penn State on that rivalry game, you can't necessarily say that simply because of the facts and the stakes of the game. Mm-hmm. So, but when I go back and I look at that Maryland game, it shows that Franklin had these guys ready, and they wasn't going to have a letdown game, and they were ready for action, and they showed that they are one of the better teams in the Big Ten last week.
Well, in the next couple of weeks, we'll find out exactly what they are. Another one of my surprises this year is actually Oregon. And before you say, yeah, but they lost to an SEC team in the first game of the season, well, they did, and it was on the last play of the game, which full credit to Auburn, but Oregon's defense is actually playing pretty lights out. They haven't given up a touchdown in their last 3 games. In fact, that touchdown that Bo Nix threw off to his left-hand side in the corner to win that game in AT&T Stadium, that's the last touchdown that Oregon gave up. They've only surrendered 15 points on defense since then, the beginning of the season. So their defense is all up to par. They got a quality win over a Stanford team that's not as good as they usually are, but I think tomorrow they've got a home game against Cal. I think Cal's got something to prove. They lose last week at home to Arizona State, so maybe Cal isn't as good as we thought they were when they started out 4-0. I don't want to say that it's a big game against Cal, but I think they're going to get a quality win out of it, and I think that they're kind of a surprise team because losing to Auburn in the first game of the season, you kind of put them on the back shelf and say, maybe they're not for real, but they could still win their conference easily.
Yeah, but I agree. I mean, with Oregon, you thought they would actually kind of slide off a little bit after losing Jim Leavitt last year, the defensive coach who actually brought their defense up to the 15th last year, ranked number 15 last year. So with them losing Leavitt, you would think that they would kind of fall off defensively, but they were able to maintain.
Yeah, I think Mario Cristobal's got them going in the right direction. The last surprise that I have as far as college football season goes is, believe it or not, it's Ohio State. Coming into the season, you lose Tate Martell, so you don't know what you got at quarterback. You have Justin Fields, but like I said, you don't know what you have at quarterback. You have J.K. Dowling back, and he's a solid player, but it's like, can Ryan Day pick up? You just lost the king. You just lost Urban Meyer. This guy's been ruling on top of college football along with Nick Saban and Dabo Swinney for the past 10 years. So I thought there was a lot of question marks there. A lot of them have been answered. It's not just because they got answered last week against Nebraska. I think they're going to have a solid game tomorrow at home against Michigan State, furthering my point. But I can't give Ryan Day enough credit. I mean, when you have some big shoes to fill, and he just seems cooler than the other side of the pillow, a calm customer. You know, even last year, he had to come in and sub-coach when Urban was out because of suspension against TCU. He looked, cooler than a cucumber in that game. They get a solid win, and he just picked up where he left off last year with this year. I think that the surprise factor is I didn't think it would be this smooth of a transition. I didn't think Justin Fields would be this good. I didn't think their running game would be this solid. So I'm putting it in my category of a mild surprise, Ohio State.
Yeah, I'll go with you with Ryan Day, but again, we've always seen this story too. We had a good coach leave a team. It goes back to the Miami team. We had Butch Davis leave, and we had Larry Coker take over, a great team. So my look for Ohio State is I want to see how they look going forward after Urban's, his influence has left that program. So that's what I'm looking for with Ohio State. But my last sleeper team, it goes to the Fighting Herminators of Arizona State. You have Arizona State actually in the Pac-12 challenging for the Pac-12 South. No one would have ever seen this coming out of Herm Edwards. Right now, he has them playing solid defense. They're controlling the time of possession, and they're actually winning these games. They have a freshman quarterback, dual threat quarterback. He's has a pretty good passer, pretty good arm, pretty good runner as well, and he's just managing the game. I love Arizona State right now.
Don't you just love Herm Edwards?
Love him.
I mean, he is just like a solid, quality character guy. I know Arizona State isn't all that, They're not one of the top perennial 15 teams in the country, and they're not known as one of the top programs in the country. But, if I'm out on the West Coast and my kid isn't getting, tons of offers, if he could go and play under Herm Edwards, I would send my sons to go play for him. I love Herm Edwards. That guy is solid as hell.
Yeah, I mean, I like Herm Edwards. I like even the program that Herm Edwards actually instituted into his program going into the season. No one was safe. I mean, Herm Edwards even got rid of some scholarship players. I mean, you have to be in love with the game of football. You have to have structure, and you have to have discipline in order to play for Herm Edwards. Herm Edwards doesn't care about how talented you are. If you're not going to fall in line and, you're not going to do what you need to do to stay on that team, he doesn't need you at that program. I love the example that he's setting, and I love what he's doing at Arizona State right now.
And what you have to do if you play for Herm Edwards is you have to play to win the game. Play to win the game. I love that quote from him.
Exactly.
There's nothing bad about Herm Edwards at all. So I wanted to get into our Heisman list, but before we do that, we want to take time and ask you guys, if you love the show, help us support the show by hitting the subscribe button right now. Hit the like button. Give us some feedback. Leave a comment in the comment section on YouTube. And help us grow the show. Help us spread the word about the first round. And tell your friends about it. And we'd like to get our numbers and reach as many people as we possibly can. If you think we're doing a good show, then leave it in the comment box on YouTube. If you want to be a part of the show, you can do that also. Hit us up at thefirstrd@gmail.com. You can lob Chris and I questions or give us comments about the show, and we'd love to receive those, and you can be a part of the show that way. Let's get into our Heisman list, going 5 to 1. Real quick, well, I'm going to give you, at 5, I'm going to put Sam Ehlinger at 5. Right now, quarterback out of Texas. Nobody's really talking about him, but I think he's a solid enough player. I've got him at my 5 position.
I have him as my 5 positions a lock as well. He's a pretty decent quarterback. He's offensively, he can rush the ball, he can throw the ball. He has all the intangibles needed for a Heisman candidate. However, it comes down to these big games. When he played LSU, he did pretty well as far as keeping them in the game, but there
wasn't his fault they lost.
Yeah, but
that was Texas' defense.
It's their defense, but if it comes down to those games, it always falls on the quarterback, unfortunately.
Yeah. Number 4, I've got Jalen Hurts. We could talk about all the numbers he's put up there, but one, super mature guy. He's got an Alabama pedigree. Now he's got Lincoln Riley under his belt for tutelage. I just think he's a super solid player. I've got Jalen Hurts as my number 4.
My number 4, I have Justin Fields. Simply going into Ohio State, he's coming in as his first year. Yes, he's putting up gigantic numbers, or he's putting up great numbers going into the Big Ten. But again, I just think that I see other players that are a little bit better than him, a little bit more polished with him going forward.
My number 3, I've got Justin Fields from Ohio State, quarterback at my number 3 position. Over 1,100 yards passing, 21 total touchdowns, 6 touchdowns in 1 quarter, over 654 yards rushing. He's smart. He doesn't make mistakes. He's very mature. I've got him at number 3 right now.
Number 3, I have Tua at number 3 for Alabama. He's putting up numbers with Alabama, arguably Alabama's best three-headed monster at wide receiver. I mean, those receivers are three first-round draft picks. I love the fact that he's actually putting up games where he's having 3 and 4 touchdowns a game. But right now I have Tua at number 3.
Taylor, mute his mic right now. You have Tua at number 3. You're on secret probation right now just for saying Tua at 3, because I'm gonna give you a chance to redeem yourself. You better have some really good ones at 2 and 1, but to put Tua at 3, you're suspect, Chief. Okay, you're being watched right now. I'm warning you. You're being watched. My number 2 is Tua Tagovailoa out of Alabama. Not only is he doing it this year, and I know it's got to be an award for the most outstanding player in college football this year, but you've got to take also what he's done in the last couple of years that have made him the leader that he is, the smart player that he is, the accurate player that he is, the dual threat player that he is, and how he's making all these other players around him shine. Tua, for me, is number 2 right now.
My number 2 goes to Jonathan Taylor out of Wisconsin. Jonathan Taylor, he's taking Wisconsin on his back. He's putting up. I mean, this is not his first year of putting up good rushing yards for Wisconsin.
So you're finally a believer.
Well,
I said at the beginning of the year I had Jonathan Taylor number 1, but go ahead.
But yeah, I mean, I looked at Jonathan Taylor.
Now you're looking at Jonathan Taylor.
No, I looked at Jonathan Taylor prior.
Nobody was looking at Jonathan Taylor.
Prior to meeting you, Ron, I knew about Jonathan Taylor.
No.
Yes,
it's just like hot women from Sweden. I had to introduce you to that too.
I did, Ron.
No, you weren't watching. Nobody was watching Jonathan Taylor at the beginning of the season.
If you are a fan of college football.
He wasn't even a blip on the radar, man.
What you mean he wasn't a blip on the radar?
Nobody was talking about him.
Nobody talked about him.
Everybody was talking about Trevor Lawrence and all these other guys. I was the only guy coming out talking about Jonathan. I've had Jonathan Taylor at number 1 since before the season started. When he was a fetus.
Because
when
Trevor
he was
Lawrence
kicking in the womb, I had Jonathan Taylor number 1 for this year.
Because Trevor Lawrence, a.k.a. Sunshine from Remember the Titans, was the hot girl, like the hot trendy girl at the time.
I didn't have Trevor Lawrence in my top 5.
No, I'm talking about for everyone else. And he was the hot trending girl. But if you're a fan of college football or you actually watch Wisconsin football, you would know that Jonathan Taylor was actually putting up these numbers prior to this year.
Yeah, I would know that because
I would know that too, Ron.
Okay. Next, we're doing a live show Sunday.
Yes.
Break the Prozacs in half. Don't swallow the whole thing all at once. You're probably, it's like Captain Crunch and Hungry Hippo. You're just melting down the...
No.
Yeah. No. That's what's going on with you. So, obviously, my number 1 since the beginning of the season and before then has been Jonathan Taylor. I'm going to tell you why he's the most outstanding player. Mm-hmm. Because they don't have any threats at wide receiver. Every time he comes up to the line, out of the huddle, he's looking at 8 and 9 guys in the box, and he's still putting up over 150 yards and rushing every single game. He can catch it. He can run it for touchdowns. He's all around the best player in the country. It reminds me of LaDainian Tomlinson when he was at TCU. Nobody was giving that guy a chance for the Heisman, and he was getting 9 and 10 guys in the box. That's what's going on with Jonathan Taylor. He's not at some big, flashy college, so he's not going to get all that press. You know who they're starting to talk about now on ESPN this week? Jonathan Taylor. You know who was talking about him before the season even started? This guy. Yeah.
Yes.
Who's your number 1?
My number 1 was further down your list, but I got him at number 1 simply because of not only, what he's able to do this season.
Hold on. Get the mute button ready, Taylor. Go ahead.
Not only what he's able to do this
Get the
season,
mute button ready.
but we're talking about a solid character guy. We're talking about a guy who's actually showing that he can play quarterback. He can be accurate. He can be, a quarterback of a team and take them to the playoffs. Of course, I'm talking about Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts is a qualified candidate for Heisman. I don't have anything bad to say about him. He's in my top list, but being number one seems like a little bit of a stretch. Not a lot. There's qualified guy. Tua is a qualified guy. Jonathan Taylor wins it. Nobody's going to argue with that. Jalen Hurts or Justin Fields, they're all qualified to win it. Now you got to figure out who's the most outstanding player out of all of them.
But you have to also look at the numbers that Jalen Hurts has put up this season as well. I mean,
against who?
But again, you can almost say the same thing against Wisconsin. They only played like one tough game so far. So
wait, Michigan has a perennially good defense every year, and he ran all over them.
Michigan?
Yes, they're not a terrible defense.
You're talking about a team that gave up 300 yards to Army.
Army is built on running.
But they gave up three. But
that's a running team.
It's a running team, but he's also a running back. We're not going to even say he's like a middle tier. You're talking about a top tier running back. So he's going to put up yards against Michigan.
Pause.
He's going to put up those yards.
Pause. You and I were watching the game 2 weeks ago when he was playing, and he was running up to the line full steam, stopping on a dime, and getting to the outside within 2 seconds. That is an outstanding player.
Exactly.
Yes.
And Ron, I'm not taking anything away from Jonathan Taylor.
I'm not taking anything away. They're all qualified.
They're qualified, yes.
You can't just discount, like a lot of people are doing, Jonathan Taylor because he's a running back.
I'm not discounting him because
they're all
he's a running
qualified.
back.
If any of those four guys we mentioned wins, I wouldn't have a problem with it.
Exactly.
But when you're a running back and you don't have any other threats on offense, and they put 9 and 10 guys in the box every time you're back there, and you're still putting up incredible numbers, that means something.
That means something too. But if you have a quarterback that has over 3,000 or 4,000 yards passing by the end of the season, over 1,000 yards rushing,
he also has CeeDee Lamb. He also has one of the best young coaches. He also has Sermon. An awesome running back, a top 10 running back in the country, and CeeDee Lamb, and Lincoln Riley coaching him, and a huge offensive line that's all on steroids probably. He's got other threats. What does Wisconsin have? Nothing.
They have all of that, and if he's still able to shine like that?
Yeah. That's my point. You just made my point.
Again, I'm not saying this guy is not qualified, and he's not a top tier guy, but when I'm looking at, I'm looking at mine. No, I don't have two at number 2. I don't. Again, this is Chris's list. So.
Fine. Our lists will work themselves out. Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. So enough of college football. I wanted to move on because this is the only time during the year that I'm going to talk about baseball, which is making itself less relevant.
I wonder why.
If that's even possible. The playoffs have started. And all I wanted to cover was the 2 teams I got in the AL and the 2 teams in the NL. I think that, I give full credit to the A's. I give full credit to the Rays. Those are 2 organizations that have done so much more with so much less resources. I mean, they're both playing in the A's are playing in a stadium that basically looks like a toilet bowl, and it has 2 football fields on for the foul area. I mean, there's so much foul area over there. It's unbelievable. Right. Gene Tennis used to play there. That stadium's been there since I was a fetus. Enough about the stadiums. Those 2 teams, I love them because they do so much more with less. Having said that, reality kicks in, and Houston and New York, the Yankees, come out of the AL. In my National League teams, I'm going to go with, I know this sounds so chalk, I'm going to go with the Dodgers, and I'm going to go with Atlanta.
Well, that's because it is chalk. I mean, you're talking about the best teams and the best 4 teams in baseball right now.
Yep.
When I looked at the game the other night, you were thinking that
which one?
I'm looking at the A's and the Rays game.
Yeah.
You have the Rays who couldn't hit the ball to save their life headed towards the end of the season, and then you have this semi-offensive explosion for 5 runs the other night against A's and their ace, and you wasn't expecting that.
Yeah,
at all.
the A's just couldn't generate anything.
They couldn't generate anything.
All right, who do you got coming out of the AL?
Out of the AL, of course, it's chalk. I have the Yankees and I have Houston as well.
Okay, and National League?
National League, again, it's chalk. Again, I have the Dodgers and I'll have Atlanta as well coming
Okay,
out.
World Series, I'm going with Houston, and none of the other three teams matter. I think Houston's going to take it. I will say they're probably going to play the Dodgers, but the thing with the Dodgers is their bullpen, and I think inconsistent hitting. And I think when it comes down to the playoffs, pitching wins. Verlander's just on another planet this year. I'm taking Houston to win it all over LA, but I think it really, I'll tell you another team I really love. I love Minnesota. You want to talk about a great fan base and a team that does more with less? Minnesota. They get some kudos. Anybody from Minnesota, give us a like up, because I just gave your Twins a like up. A thumbs up on the Minnesota Twins. Good organization.
Yeah, I mean, going to the World Series, I love my Yankees. I love them.
To win it all?
I love them. However,
yeah, I'll stop you in your tracks with your starting pitching right now.
However, you guys, you kind of disappointed me when you coming into the trade deadline. There was no trades. There was no movement for pitchers. And I think really when it comes down to that game, to that series, it's going to be about pitching. And I'm sorry, Yanks, you just don't have enough pitching.
Yeah, I mean, you and I were talking before the show started. When it comes to the Yankees, you can hit as many home runs as you want. But again, it comes down to pitching. You got to stop the other team. And so you've got Cervino.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're getting. He could be lights out or he could be average.
Right.
Then you've got Happ and Tanaka. Tanaka is like, sticking your hand in a bag with three snakes. I mean, you have no idea what you're getting. He's been inconsistent. Happ's ERA has gone up since the All-Star break by, I think, 2 runs. And then who you got at 4? Sabathia is not even on the playoff roster. If you could get to your bullpen, your bullpen's okay. But I mean, who are your starting pitching? Who are you going to lean on?
I'm just gonna.
You're going to hope Cervino does great, and then Happ and Tanaka is it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna throw some numbers up and hope some pan out. I mean,
all right, who you got winning the World Series?
I mean, winning the World Series, I just think that Houston just has too much pitching.
They're so solid.
Pitching. Yeah.
Taylor's talking to me, our producer. He wanted to know who the current world champions are.
For like 2 more weeks.
I'm sorry, who the current world champions of the world?
Whatever that team is on your hat, man. I'm not going to say their team. I'm not going to say their name.
You're scum, you know that? You are just so scared.
Yankee fan for life, baby.
Yeah, okay. Stop living in the 50s. So what else is going on in the world of sports, Chris?
What's going on in the world of sports? We have Clay Matthews is sitting out. He's supposed to be out for a month due to a broken jaw.
Yep.
We definitely need to see how this is going to impact the Rams defense. I mean, they've been getting
MIA.
gashed the last couple of weeks. I mean, they made Jameis Winston look like some old Florida State highlights from his freshman year last week, and then you go on the road against Russell Westbrook, Russell Wilson, excuse me.
Yeah.
Sorry, Russell. Sorry, Sierra. Didn't mean to confuse you with that guy.
He got you some fantasy points.
Yes, he did. He actually got me close to 40 fantasy points. Good move, man. Good playing last night, Russ.
What is going on with the Rams defense? They are MIA, man.
You go from the top to the bottom, man. I don't know.
It's their secondary.
Yeah, it really is. You're looking at Talib last night, Aqib Talib last night. He's getting gashed. I mean, you have a tight end that's getting down the field.
Did you see Carson on that full body student body right play? Yeah. I mean, he just gas faced him back into the front line and kept going. I mean, he literally threw his whole body.
Yeah, I mean, who would have ever known you had a defensive end from Washington come in to be a tight end and actually gashed that defense last night? Yeah. That guy Disley. Yeah. Have you ever heard of Disley before?
I never. When we were watching the game, I was like, I don't even know who this guy is. What else is going on in the world of sports piquing your interest, Chris?
Right now, we also have a Division III college football team that's decided to cancel the end of their season. Actually forfeit the rest of their games. They forfeited 7 games. They started out with 3 losses, and due to 11 injuries out of the 39 players, they decided to cancel the season. I think this goes to the fact that it's starting to question how safe is football when you have a college decide to forfeit the rest of their season.
Well, when you only have 39 players, that doesn't help.
It really doesn't help at all. And my final what's going on at the end outside of sports is we have Leonard Fournette's brother at LSU. Great guy, running back for LSU. I guess, I don't know if he just decided he can live up to his brother's footsteps, but he's decided to give up college football, and he just says he just quit on football and just wants to live his life. So good luck to you, man. I wish you all the best.
It reminds me of Marcus Vick, his brother.
Yeah.
Coming up right behind him, and then it was just like too many problems, too immature, and he just, threw his hands up in the air and was like, forget it. Funny story that I found out this week that was in the news was Jerry Jones comes out with comparative statements between Dak Prescott and Tom Brady. Dak, you're your fourth. I'm not even talking to Dak because he's a solid guy and he's a B-plus quarterback in the league who doesn't have 6 Super Bowl championship rings. But Jerry, before you go start making those comparisons, your boy's been in the league for 3 years. He has 1 playoff win against 6 championships. Anyway, that music can mean only one thing. We're here every Friday night live, every Sunday morning doing college football wrap-up live on YouTube. We appreciate you guys tuning in this week. We try and make it informative. We try and make you laugh. We try to know what we're talking about. I see a lot of guys out there with a phone, and that's their podcast. We're doing a little bit better job than that, and if you think so, give us a subscribe, give us a like, and give me a chance to thank our support staff, my co-host, Chris Roberts, the man on the board, Taylor, son of God, El Presidente, Chet 40, the Mighty 690, big 50,000-watt station in California. For all of you who watched us tonight, thank you for making us part of your day. Send us a comment on YouTube, and we'll see you Sunday morning right back here on the first round.